Part 120. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1195. The flames turned into countless rag-like flying catkins, flying everywhere. Garen stayed away from the fire, frowning as he looked at the fire that could not be extinguished for a long time. The soul power aura was inside, but he couldn't enter to solve it. The temperature of this flame is at least several thousand degrees, and it is unlikely that he can resist directly and go in to find something. It's really troublesome. He looked back at the sky in the distance. Kong Xingxiu's helicopter slowly flew over, obviously coming to pick him up. I think there is probably not much left in such a small soul power aura. Garen turned around and left quickly. Soon the helicopter flew away from the island again. Sitting on the helicopter, Garen looked down at the island below. "How many more islands are there?" he asked the black man. "I only know that there is an island on the navigation system," the black driver replied quickly, fearing that Garen would be angry if he was too late. Seeing him slaughter so many white crab troops with his own eyes, his respect for his family has now risen to the highest level of awe. It's not an exaggeration to treat him as a commander. "Take me there." Garen narrowed his eyes and said casually. "Just solve it together. Is the fuel tank filled?" "Finished adding." "Then go directly." Kong Xingxiu looked at Garen like a monster. When did you become so perverted? She couldn't hide the shock in her heart. This guy actually killed so many elite troops in a head-on confrontation. Even the most powerful nine-tailed fox in his impression probably wouldn't be able to do this. Garen smiled and didn't answer anything. "Just sit in your seat and close your eyes." The saber was placed leaning against the edge of his seat. He put his hands on his knees and slowly fell into a deep sleep. Kong Xingxiu was sitting next to him, but she could faintly feel a cold aura that kept strangers away, as if she felt waves of slight chill coming from Garen's body. This originally clear guy became more and more vague and mysterious in her eyes. Who was he in the past? How could he climb to such a height in such a short period of time? She couldn't help but quietly become curious about Garen. Snapped. The fire slowly extinguished, and a piece of charcoal exploded and broke, and was then trampled to pieces by a black leather boot. The man in black trench coat slowly walked to the location of the woman killed by Garen. After bending down and slowly groping for a few times on the ground, he found a crystal clear hexagonal transparent gem from the ashes. "Soul crystal. The second one," he murmured lowly. "Put the soul crystal into the windbreaker." "What good luck. As long as I collect 3 of them, I can condense them into soul seeds. Even the Slayer can't stop me after absorbing them." "Hehehehehehehe," he sneered lowly. "As long as I'm more careful, no one will know that I took the imitation divine pattern. Everything will be recorded on Garen. It's really good." The figure slowly retreated with the soul crystal and boarded a submarine on the beach. Quickly disappeared into the depths of the sea. Garen rushed forward slowly, faster and faster, faster and faster. Suddenly he flipped forward and jumped forward, tisk tisk tisk. With 3 consecutive crisp sounds, 3 3-meter-tall robots on the island below were knocked over and scrapped, and a large number of sparks burst out from them. Boom boom boom. 3 flames exploded. Garen landed and continued walking forward with his saber in hand. There are corpses everywhere around, fragments of tanks, and even some fighter planes are also stuck in the ground. Flames, black smoke, various glazed pits, the entire new island is a mess. White Crab Army. "Don't you have any strong opponents?" Garen grabbed the last bald man in dissatisfaction. He is the leader here and the person in charge of the entire island. Wearing a white suit and a shiny bald head, he originally looked very tough, but now that Garen grabbed him by the collar and lifted him up, he felt as weak as a gangster. "No, don't kill me," the bald head begged, his face covered with snot and tears. Fear continued to spread from his eyes to his entire face, giving people a weird and twisted feeling. Too weak, Garen threw him away casually. This kind of person has no interest in killing him. Boom. But what was unexpected was that before the bald man flew a few meters, he exploded with a roar. Terrifying green flames mixed with white light spots exploded, instantly covering a nearby area of more than 10 meters. Garen reacted at the moment of the explosion and immediately retreated, but it was too late and he was hit hard in the front. Puff. He spit out a mouthful of blood involuntarily. Fly out upside down. What the hell? He didn't expect that this kind of self-destruction was not controlled by him, and it seemed to have nothing to do with his own wishes. It exploded almost suddenly. Being hit in the front, he flew out and landed on the ground more than 10 meters away. He wiped away the blood from his mouth. He was injured several times in a row. Even with his physical condition, he could not reach the point of vomiting blood. Why is it that the bombs on the weaker guys are more powerful? Standing up from the ground, Garen looked around. There was no living creature on the entire island. The rest had either escaped or had been killed. Let me teach you a lesson. He turned and left, heading towards the helicopter that was slowly lowering its height in the distance. Although Kong Xingqiu is not very powerful, he can still aim and threaten a black pilot with a pistol. Not long after he left, the figure in black windbreaker appeared again near the flames. There was an extra fire extinguishing tool in his hand, and he aimed it at the flames and sprayed it fiercely. The fire suddenly extinguished, and the black figure walked in, his leather boots squeaking on the hot black earth ashes, emitting bursts of the stench of burnt leather. He bent down and fiddled with the soil for a while with a metal piece, and once again found a crystal clear hexagonal gem among the ashes. The third one. He took out a cell phone from his pocket and dialed the number. "What are your orders, Your Excellency?" A clear and cold voice came from the mobile phone. "There are still 5 bases on the side of the White Crab Army. Let's deal with them together," the man in windbreaker whispered. "Understood, everything is ready and waiting for your order." "Well, everything will be settled within half an hour." "As you wish." The phone was disconnected, and the man in trench coat let out a slight chuckle. "Really good harvest." He turned and walked toward the beach. Somewhere under the sea, in a submarine. The 9th base has been destroyed. 2 black figures stood side by side in front of a white screen in the submarine, looking at the tragic situation of the devastated island above. 3 regiments of people were defeated by Garen alone. "It's incredible." "He only has 1 person," another person said in a low voice. "In addition, no soul crystal was found. It seems that it was taken away by Garen. The remaining islands should be auxiliary forces cooperating with his actions. If nothing goes wrong, all the soul crystals should be concentrated for Garen. We must get it back. The soul crystal is the basis for our cooperation with the slaughterer. Since Garen dares to snatch the soul crystal, he is obviously ready for a head-on war with us. This time, are you going or am I going?" another person said. "I'll go. As the president, you have to deal with too many things. It just so happens that I go out to exercise. I haven't been active for so many years. I don't know how much ability I have left. As long as the vulture people don't interfere, everything will go well for me. After you deal with Galleon, come back and join me immediately." "Clear." Let him know that not everything can be touched casually. On the helicopter, Garen sat in his seat, quietly waiting for Kong Xingqiu's reaction. "How about it?" "Found it." Kong Xingqiu opened her eyes. "Don't question my ability. Even if I'm not as good as you, this is my strength," she said unwillingly. "Specific location?" "It's directly below in the ocean." Garen picked up his saber, opened the hatch, and jumped down. Puff. He plunged hard into the water below. The water was dimly blue everywhere, but a clear and dark egg-shaped submarine appeared directly in front of Garen's eyes. The fish egg submarine was actually transparent, and a figure wrapped in a black trench coat suddenly looked up. He was holding an oval-shaped crystal-clear gem in his hand and was moving it toward his mouth. Seeing Garen rushing down, he immediately increased his speed. There was a smile on his lips. "It's too late, he conveyed this meaning towards Garen from a distance. Garen had long felt that something was wrong, not only from the disappearance of the soul power behind him every time, but also from the fact that the defense of the White Crab army seemed to have been relaxed by someone. It seemed that the news that he had destroyed the base could not be delivered. In other places, the White Crab army was caught off guard by him 3 times in a row. He would not believe it if no one secretly helped block the information. This is not an ancient era when beacons were needed to transmit information, but only a phone call was needed to transmit information and communications to faraway places. In this technological age, the only explanation for such a phenomenon is that someone is secretly helping him cover up information. And Garen is not a newbie. He has hundreds of years of experience. If he can't detect such a little strange thing, then he has been in vain for all these years. Not in time, Garen curled his lips and the saber in his hand suddenly vibrated. White flames suddenly burned all over his body. Huge soul power fluctuations burst out from his body. The soul power penetrated the submarine and landed hard on the gem. With a buzz, the gem actually stopped for a moment, hanging on the windbreaker man's mouth, as if it was controlled by some invisible force for a moment. The wind ahead. Garen waved his saber gently. The blade burned with white flames, creating a strange arc as it slashed downwards. Clang! The submarine was directly cut open with a knife, and a large amount of sea water rushed in. The submarine suddenly shook violently, and its moving speed slowed down greatly. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1196. The figure in the black windbreaker inside suddenly panicked. He was obviously wearing a diving suit at all times. He pulled off the black windbreaker, opened the other hatch and swam towards the distance. At the same time, a large amount of airflow was ejected from behind, greatly increasing its speed. It seemed to be some kind of acceleration equipment. Garen drew out his saber and swam straight towards the man. This guy was following behind him, enjoying the benefits, treating him like a fool, really treating him as a white man who didn't understand anything. There was not much difference in speed between the two. The man turned on the accelerator, but he still couldn't get rid of Galleons. Suddenly horrified, he looked back and was suddenly shocked. Garen's name was just a simple stroke, but his body was as supple and natural as a swimming fish, and his speed was even faster than himself. "I'm not from the White Crab army," he quickly shouted. "I've been helping you along the way, haven't you noticed?" Garen grinned and continued the pursuit. "I'm here to help you kill the White Crab army. The enemy of your enemy is your friend. Why are you chasing me?" The man in windbreaker suddenly became anxious. With the flash of the sword, a piece of clothing was missing from the back of his buttocks. This guy was so frightened that he quickly increased the output power of the thrusters behind him. "Reopen the distance. I'm your friend." "Friend? Damn it, can't you understand human language?" the man in windbreaker said angrily. Laugh. The boots on his legs were missing the solace, and his right leg was almost lost. Garen smiled and continued to catch up with the knife in hand. The man in trench coat was so frightened that he hurriedly accelerated again, but acceleration could only increase the speed for a short time and could not be continued forever. After all, accelerators also have durability and power. Short-term acceleration is equivalent to short-term overclocking and cannot last long. "I have never harmed you." The windbreaker man's original joy at taking advantage of him turned into a complete brain dead, and he shouted repeatedly, "Didn't I just take a few soul crystals from you? I'll give it back to you." He quickly threw out the newly synthesized soul seed. Garen caught it smoothly, with a hint of surprise on his face. "What is this? Soul seed? Isn't that why you came to me?" the man in windbreaker said angrily. For this, Garen suddenly looked puzzled. No. I didn't even know you had this thing. Then why are you chasing me? The man in windbreaker almost collapsed. Garen quickly put away the soul seed. You look very powerful. You can definitely have a good fight with me. After collecting the soul seeds, Garen grinned again. I didn't expect that I could gain something new like this. Not bad, not bad. You are lying. Before the man in windbreaker could say anything, he felt a chill on the back of his butt. Uh-huh. A ray of light passed by, and the diving suit on his skin was cut off with precision like a scalpel, revealing the white buttocks. I'll fight you. The man in windbreaker finally collapsed and turned around and rushed towards Garen. At this time, he no longer concealed it, but directly leaked the girl's voice. He rushed towards Garen with great shame and anger. As a girl, having her pants cut off her buttocks and exposing her shame in front of a man is simply a great shame. Garen originally just planned to tease this guy, but he didn't expect that he was actually a woman, and she sounded like she was not very old. Suddenly my heart screamed. Bang! The girl rushed to Garen and punched Garen in the face with all her strength like crazy. Then a big hand grabbed his neck violently. Without the outer layer of clothing, her figure was extremely petite. As a result, her arms were not long enough and she could only dangle in front of Garen's eyes. Let me go. Garen grabbed the guy's neck and swam up. Only then did the girl reveal her true appearance during the struggle. She had brilliant long purple hair, her waist was at the hip level, but her figure was no different from that of a child. She has a flat chest, but she does have long legs. But there's nothing girlish about it at all. But what made Garen somewhat familiar was that she also exuded an aura similar to his own. That's soul power. Mother River System. He asked casually. Ah. You too, the girl was stunned. Puff. The two of them emerged from the sea. The girl took off the mask on her head, revealing a pretty and pleasant face. He looked to be no more than 18 years old. Hen Hen began to breathe in the fresh air. Galleon's lung capacity was so strong that he didn't need to ventilate at all in the few minutes since entering the water. The helicopter dropped the ladder. Garen held the girl in one hand and grabbed the ladder with the other and quickly climbed up. Back inside the helicopter. You pervert, the purple-haired girl was thrown onto the spacious floor of the helicopter by Garen. The space of armed helicopters is relatively large. After all, they are heavy-duty and can generally carry more than 10 soldiers flying at the same time. Take off the girl's pants. It's not like you have such perverted and dirty thoughts in your heart. Ordinary perverts can't do such shameless behavior. I'm going to the headquarters to sue you. Just wait, the girl yelled. But at this moment, she could only lie on her back on the ground, not daring to get up, because her butt and pants were cut off by Galen's knife. Once she got up, everyone could clearly see her white and tender little butt. Who is she? Kong Xingxiu was speechless. Garen immediately caught such a little girl. I don't know, Garen shrugged. The wet feeling on his body was very uncomfortable. He was shaken all over, and a large amount of water vapor suddenly dispersed and turned into mist and evaporated. Kong Xingxiu and the little girl's eyes widened for a while. Become a pervert. This kind of rule is so restrictive. It can actually achieve this level of control. The little girl is obviously a knowledgeable person and knows very well how difficult this technique is. Seeing this scene now, his face turned a little pale. Garen's clothes dried quickly, and he sat back on his seat, leaning his sword casually on the edge of the seat. Okay, let's talk about everything when we get back. There are black pilots on the plane here, so it is inconvenient to lecture, but this little girl is definitely a member of the Time Traveler Lighthouse, there is no doubt about it, and it is also a Mother River system, and she even knows that Soul Seed is called this only by the Mother River. It seems there is value to be mined. Garen's eyes suddenly became a little satisfied when he looked at the little girl. The little girl was slightly frightened by his naked eyes. Damn it! Is this guy already at the Demon King level? This kind of world can do such perverted behavior. If it were from other systems, it might be understandable. If it was also the Mother River system, she didn't dare to think about it anymore. It can't be so unlucky. She began to feel frightened. Even in the entire lighthouse, there are only a few people who can reach the same level as the Demon King, let alone the most difficult Mother River system. She was trembling in fear, but Garen began to reach into his arms with one hand, hold down the soul seed and begin to absorb it. Large amounts of soul power began to pour into the soul ring, which was also mixed with a lot of experience and insights about basic fighting. The main characters are mass murderers. Obviously these are some soul power crystals that were actively differentiated by the slaughterer and used to trade with other people. I just didn't expect that those who have experience and understanding, but don't have the courage to do so, everything is in vain. As early as in the world of secret martial arts, Garen understood that if he was timid, even opponents of the same level might be crushed. Timidity breeds hesitation, and hesitation breeds hesitation. If you hesitate, you will not be able to act decisively, and you will not be able to respond decisively, and then you will be slow one step at a time. A body's power cannot be exerted at the moment when it reaches its peak, and can only be interrupted by the opponent when it is not fully charged. So if you can exert 60% of your strength, it is considered very good. The strength and speed are inferior to the opponent, so there is only one result, losing. But on the battlefield, that is death. So even if those people get the soul crystal, they are just trash. It simply cannot play its true role. I am afraid that it was also because of this that the slaughterer gave away the soul crystal without any care. Okay, what's your name? Garen looked at the little girl lying on her back. Yashui. The girl's heart skipped a beat and she quickly replied. Are you awake again? Just as Yureva woke up, he heard the girl's voice ringing in his ears. The injury is much better, and it will only take a few more days to heal. What an enviable body. The girl gently pulled up Yureva's pants. Yureva felt numb now. Being checked by a girl like this every day would make anyone feel numb. Who are you? Where is my sister? Where is she now? He couldn't help but ask. Still lying on the bed in the cabin, the girl would come to take care of him once a day. The rest of the time is spent chopping wood, cooking, lighting fires, and other chores. The girl always remained silent except when she was taking care of him. No matter how Yurewa asked her, she would not reply, as if she was deaf and mute. Don't you want to find your mother? The girl replied in a low voice. She should be in the forest city. Forest city, Yureva repeated. Yes, that's all I know. The girl stopped talking. Yurewa felt that his body had recovered a lot, and it seemed that he could barely move. He slowly tried to raise his hand, and his right arm suddenly lifted slightly. I can move, he was delighted. Congratulations. The girl nodded and showed a smile. I should be grateful to you. If you hadn't saved me. Yureva was in a good mood. But can you tell me your true identity? Why do you know so many things? The girl shook her head. I'm sorry, I can't say. She brought over a bowl of oatmeal with oil and salt in it that smelled delicious. There are many people outside looking for you. Once you recover from your injuries, you don't have to worry about the mole. This is your contact number. The girl returned the phone to Yurewa. The fingers of the two people connected, and Yureva trembled slightly. He had very complicated feelings about this mysterious girl. His whole body was exposed to the other person's eyes. This kind of care lasted for so long, and she couldn't help but feel something in her heart. A touch of unique emotion. Don't think too much. The girl smiled slightly. You will meet many better girls in the future. I am not worthy of you. There was no expression on her face other than a smile, but there was a trace of hopeless silence in her eyes. Yureva opened his mouth to say something, but when he saw this dead silence, his heart was shocked and he couldn't say anything. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1197. Tell me, what is your purpose? Garen sat on the chair with his hands folded, looking at the little girl Yeshui in front of him. This guy disguised himself as a man in black and followed him silently, with a man behind him. It's a good submarine, and the intelligence seems to be very smooth. It's obvious that he is not operating alone, and must have other companions. Purpose? It's nothing. I'm just following you to eat some soup. Why are you talking so sinisterly? Yeshui replied with a smile, his eyes flashing. Galleon didn't answer directly at all. The two of them had already left the sea and returned to Switzerland City, where Garen was originally located. This was the territory of the Scylan Kingdom and was protected by the Vultures and the Ministry of National Security. It was absolutely safe. It can be regarded as Garon's current base camp. Okay, don't talk nonsense. Let's be honest. My patience is limited, Garen said casually. The reason you follow me is to imitate the divine pattern, right? He took out the condensed crystal from his arms. His soul seed has shrunk by nearly half, and most of his soul power has been absorbed into his soul ring. In the soul ring, 3 soul seeds were slowly rotating around a new void and transparent soul seed. This new void and transparent soul seed was in the early stages of formation. It was obviously derived from the new soul seed in Garen's hands. Produced by soul energy and soul power. But it is obviously much weaker than the other 3 soul species. Soul species are also divided into strengths and weaknesses. Among Garen's 3 major soul species, the Northern Halberd Soldier Hanyan Zhenshui Xiegong, blue, and the Holy Phoenix Magic Book, black gold. Cold Hell Peacock Mother Soul Seed, white. Among the 3 major soul seeds, the Cold Prison Peacock Mother Soul Seed is the most powerful, and the light in it almost dyes the other 2 soul seeds the same white color. The power of this new soul seed is less than 1,000th of the other 2 soul seeds, making it the weakest in history. My purpose is indeed the soul seed. There were only 2 people here now, and Yeshui confessed, this soul seed comes from the Slayer. It has strong practical experience value. The insights inside can save me a lot of time. It's a detour. It's considered middle grade in the classification of soul types, so it's natural for me to do this, right? Mid-grade, Garen didn't expect that such a soul seed, which was many times weaker than his 3 major soul seeds, actually seemed to be of considerable value in the eyes of the other party. Of course. Although the soul seed of the Slayer does not have much soul power, it is very suitable for the basic development of various worlds and is almost unrestricted. The power developed in this world's universe is almost not subject to large-scale restrictions in other universes. It's just that because of bottlenecks restricted by rules, growth in this universe is much slower, Yeshui said with a matter-of-fact expression. Okay, I've said everything I need to say. Is it time to let me go back? She said simply. I just accidentally saw you fighting with the White Crab Army, so I came here to take advantage of it. Garen pondered for a moment. Do you have a way back to the lighthouse? You even know this? Yeshui was suddenly startled and stared at Jialong as if he was seeing a ghost. Really? Garen suddenly laughed. You fooled me. Yeshui was speechless. It's nothing. I do have a way to get back to the lighthouse now, but I spent a lot of money to find it. I can't give it to you in vain. Garen has now understood that the lighthouse travelers are actually slightly different from him. They are equivalent to flowers living in a greenhouse, with the guidance of a lighthouse. In addition, the world's environment is not as cruel as their own, so their development has not been fast. But he himself was different. Whether it was a coincidence or not, or the direction and path he decided on, Garen had always come through the battle. No luck. Tell me. I'll let you go, Garen said lazily. Why? Yeshui said unwillingly, kill me. I won't tell you even if I die. That was a method she got by almost losing all her money and borrowing money from friends. How could she give it to Geo for nothing? Long. You haven't forgotten what our mother river system is really good at, right? Garen smiled sinisterly. Yeshui was startled for a moment, and then his body trembled. Don't try to scare me. The mother river system majors in the soul, and there are various methods for targeting the soul, among which it is most likely related to searching for memories. As long as I take you out of this world and universe without being restricted by rules, then, hee, Garen sneered. Yeshui stared at the sinister smile on Jia Long's face in fear. I said. She decisively gave up her reserve and persistence. Only one person can enter and leave the space-time loophole at a time. We only have 3 in total. And it requires very precise calculations and timing opportunities. Garen carefully began to ask about her so-called time and space loophole. As he expected, Yeshui had indeed found an unknown time and space loophole that could escape this extremely restricted universe, but the price needed to be paid was that every time it is necessary to cleanse the body of the unformed power of this universe. It's like purifying herself and leaving the house. She can't take anything with her except soul power, so they try their best to find soul power in this world, which is the fluctuation of divine patterns. By chance, I discovered the battle between Garen and the White Crab Army in the bathroom. I thought I could take advantage of it, so I rushed over. Unfortunately, I didn't get it cheaply, but Galen found the opportunity to seize it. So what's going on with the White Crab Army? Garen planned to quickly learn about the world. Since he could obtain the soul seed from the Slayer, it meant that there should be more benefits to be mined from him. He changed his mind and started asking about the White Crab Army again. White Crab Army? They are the army of dreamers. Don't you know? Yeshui said with a surprised look on his face. The Dreamers' Army? Garen was slightly startled. Isn't he a massacre? Of course not. They only have a cooperative relationship with the slaughterer. The real person behind the scenes is the dreamer, Yeshui immediately explained. You didn't find out? She felt a little incredible. How do you judge that he is the Dreamer's Army? Garen frowned. Why did another dreamer suddenly appear? I'll tell you the truth, and you let me go. Yeshui began to bargain. Okay, Garen agreed decisively. Yeshui failed to react immediately, as if he didn't expect Jia Long to agree so quickly. But then he came back to his senses. I don't know the identity of the dreamer, but I have heard with my own ears the conversation between the slaughterer and the White Crab Army. I have the top intelligence stealing experts in my team. There is absolutely no mistake. This time you and the White Crab Army's battle is also the White Crab Army's message that we help you block. Seeing Garen nodding, she continued. The White Crab Army seems to be an independent mercenary organization. It is very large and possesses a lot of mechanized technologies. They have been doing some incomprehensible actions. It does not seem to be purely for profit. It is a very weird organization anyway. Commander-in-Chief, he seems to be a very mysterious person, very powerful. Very powerful? Is it stronger than me? Garen asked with interest. I don't know, he might be better than you, Yeshui replied seriously. Garen touched his chin. Then where did the soul seeds come from? Could the slaughterer be able to create soul seeds at will? It's not realistic, is it? He can split the soul crystal, which is just a part of pure experience and soul power. After condensing and refining it, and adding my own insights, I can condense a good middle-grade soul seed. This can save a lot steps to accumulate trouble, Yeshua just said. Of course, people in other professional systems prefer to call this kind of soul seed imitation divine pattern. They can solidify it on themselves, naturally gain the experience and insights of the killer, and strengthen their combat. It's just that the uses are different and the names are different. When can you take me to the lighthouse? You know now that the plot has begun, we can't go back through the regular channel for the time being, Garen asked. Any time, Yeshway nodded affirmatively. It's just that compared to the regular channel, my method is much more dangerous. Garen pondered for a moment. This universe has many restrictions, especially for extraordinary powers. The lighthouse serves as a transfer point connecting many similar universes. Now and in the past, my strength has not yet returned to its peak, so it is not very valuable. After all, the strength gained by growing up in this universe can be used in most universes, so it is better to stay here for a while. Once you get more imitation divine patterns and increase your soul limits, it won't be too late to leave. Knowing that the Slayer could create soul seeds, Garen was not in a hurry to leave here. One soul seed can increase his soul limit, with an average of 10 points of quality. If he could get more soul power from the slaughterer, it would be of great benefit to him now. At least for a certain period of time, he did not have to change bodies in the lighthouse and the universe connected to it, because the rules of these universes were not much different. It is naturally the best thing to be able to obtain the soul seed without changing the body. He is not a masochist, he must reincarnate every time. It would be best if you don't have to recultivate. You will follow me for the time being. Garen also planned to quickly investigate Urawa's affairs. He felt that there was something fishy about the whole matter, and the internal spies must be caught. Otherwise, oneself will fall into absolute passivity in the future. And at this time, since Yeshway just said that he had absolute intelligence capabilities, it would be really stupid not to use such a big help. But, Yeshway tried to protest, but was ignored by Garen. I promised you to let you go, but I haven't found the space-time loophole yet, right? Before that, the promised deal between you and me doesn't count, so. Garen showed a deep smile. Yeshway was so frightened that his whole body trembled. Garen now stands almost at the top of the world, and is one of the strongest people alongside the Slayer and others. Are you okay? Urawa held the phone and heard the questioning voice coming from the phone. It's okay. Please inform the minister for me so that he doesn't have to worry. I'm fine and I'm about to go to the forest capital to find my mother, Urawa answered quickly. I'm not talking about you. You really scared everyone this time. You are the savior, one of the 4 cornerstones. If something happens accidentally, everyone will be involved. The man on the other end of the phone did not. Good luck. He was also in the same fighting club as Urawa at the beginning, so his tone of voice was much closer. Where's Zyja? How is she? Upon hearing the mention of Zyja, Urawa's face suddenly darkened. He recalled the image of the tall robot, and a hint of gloom suddenly filled his heart. Zyja, she was caught. What? There was a sudden scream on the other end of the phone. Then there was a continuous noise like a chicken and a dog jumping around. It seemed that there were many people over there asking about the situation, and it was hard to hear what was being said. Don't ask, I don't know what's going on. Urawa looked ugly. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1198. I'll send the bat over right away, and the egret will also rush over to help you. Even you are no match for them without using extraordinary power. In addition, the egret can be very skilled in digging and collecting intelligence. It will definitely be of great help to you. Use. Thank you. Urawa felt a lot better. These people are all branch chiefs under Garen. They are usually distributed all over the place and occupy the same position. At critical moments, they can also serve as powerful special personnel to assist in emergency tasks. Of course, 2 people must be the minister and deputy minister to be eligible for transfer. The person on the other end of the phone was the deputy director of the unrestricted fighting department, and an old acquaintance of the Vulture who took the initiative to step down and come to help. The rooted Dr. Giottai. This guy's logistics is outstanding, and his combat ability is secondary. His real strength is not in combat, but in medical skills, suturing broken limbs, and rebirth from near death. He has countless cases like this. Thank you. You brat, what on earth did you encounter that you even lost Zyja? The satellite records showed that you didn't encounter any problems at all, just like you were in a car accident. Obviously someone blocked its signal. Yureva felt warm in her heart, feeling that she was not fighting alone, and she suddenly felt much more comfortable. A robot, very strong and powerful. I was also seriously injured due to an ambush and explosion, and seemed to have been poisoned. I suspected that there was an insider who deliberately poisoned me. At that time, I couldn't use my special abilities at all. Internal intelligence. Poisoned, Giotai's tone deepened, are you sure it's poisoning? I'm sure, that's what the person who saved me said, and it's how I was treated, so it should be fine. Yureva nodded affirmatively. He lay down on the bed and whispered. There was silence on the other end of the phone. Okay, originally we also judged that there was an insider, otherwise it would not be so easy to grasp your route of action and ambush the explosives in advance. Now we are 100% sure. Have you eaten anything before setting off? Giotai asked carefully. No, all I ate were random snacks I bought along the way. It couldn't have been poisoned, because I wasn't the only one who ate it. There were other people in the supermarket, and Zyja also ate it, Yureva whispered. I will report this matter to the headquarters commander. You should be careful yourself and the person who saves you. She doesn't want to reveal her identity. Yureva thought of the mysterious girl, and felt a little warm in her heart. Be careful. Giotai said no more, just one sentence. Your position has been determined. It's best to wait where you are. Our people will be here soon. Understood. If nothing unexpected happens, I will. Yureva nodded. The two of them disconnected the phone. Is the fight over? Suddenly a voice came from behind Yureva. He started suddenly. The voice was very close to him, almost as if he was standing less than 1 meter behind him. Yureva turned around suddenly and saw the mysterious girl standing behind him, at the other end of the bed, looking at him with a smile. And with his alertness, he didn't notice anything. Feeling slightly vigilant in his heart, Yureva suppressed the shock in his heart and nodded slightly. Well, I contacted my friends and they will come back to pick me up soon. That's good, the girl nodded. I'm leaving too. Take care of yourself. You want to leave too? Don't want to see my friends? Yureva was stunned. No, the girl shook her head, I also have something I must do. Really? Yureva felt the dead silence on the girl's body deepen. He thought for a moment and asked again. Can you tell me your name? Sorry, the girl shook her head slightly. Okay, Yureva didn't know what to say for a moment. When are you leaving? The girl asked. I will leave as soon as my friends arrive. They will probably arrive tomorrow, Yureva replied in a low voice. The two fell into silence again for a while. Suddenly, Yureva smelled a faint fragrance, which seemed to be some kind of special fragrance. It was very light, but very moisturizing. He faintly felt that his blood was accelerating. What kind of aroma? He felt slightly vigilant, his body's energy and blood slowly began to accelerate, and his eyes unconsciously began to focus on the towering breasts and petite body of the girl in front of him. Suddenly, he felt that the girl in front of him seemed to be far more seductive and sexy than what he had seen before. She was wearing a white dress that was somewhat translucent, revealing the white underwear underneath. The proportionally slender legs and flat belly continued to attract Yurewa's attention. His breathing began to become heavier, and his skin began to turn red slightly, but he did not notice it at all. Instead, he focused all his attention on the girl. Leave me the best memory. The girl gently knelt on the bed and slowly hugged Yurewa. The delicate eyes closed slightly. The two slowly fell on the bed, and their clothes were torn apart piece by piece. Sitting in the hotel room, Giottai stood in front of Galen's desk wearing a white coat, with one hand on the table and a serious expression. At night, through the back of Galen sitting on the chair, you can clearly see the dark night sky outside the floor-to-ceiling window, as well as the huge light beam that is swinging past. If you stand at the floor-to-ceiling windows and look down, you can see countless yellow and white traffic lights flowing slowly like liquid mercury, large beams of light shooting everywhere, and a huge number of billboards and various colorful lights that are of varying brightness. You can have a panoramic view of the bustling night view of the entire Suzuran city. This is all the situation. I have sent egrets and bats over. They should be able to assist. Giottai frowned and said. What do you think about internal response? Garen asked, sitting with his legs crossed. He didn't seem to care very much. I suspect that the spy is probably with Yureva all the time. Otherwise, he would not be able to grasp his whereabouts so covertly, and in time since Giottai transferred from Vulture to Garen, he has changed from his previous decadence and casualness, and quickly he has mastered the power of the entire new department, and at the same time recruited some of his friends and some unfamiliar masters from the Vultures and other places. In addition, Garen himself also recruited several masters due to his reputation, which formed the current unrestricted fighting department under Garen. Referred to as the Infinite Department. On the surface, Garen is a minister of the Vulture branch, but in fact, he has been ranked among the Vultures. Since the battle with the Slaughterer, it has directly entered the top 3. Now it is ranked 3rd, but it is actually the number 1 with the strongest combat effectiveness. Although the first 2 are outstanding in strength, their role is more reflected in their background and other abilities. Therefore, Garen's current reputation as Sword Master is equivalent to an independent golden sign. He is also the number 1 gold medal fighter among Vultures. The bat is still there. I have personally taught Egret this year, and his ranking has risen to number 15. His left eye is the latest multifunctional detector, which should be able to detect who poisoned it. It can prevent the other party from possible poisoning threats in the next step. You did a good job, Garen agreed. That's for sure, Giottai smiled. I also installed an additional internal linear laser on him, which can also be used for precision surgery at critical moments. This time I went out and met an organization called the White Crab Army. Galen changed the topic. I suspect that Uraja's kidnapping, Kong Xingxiu's problem, and internal agents may all be caused by this organization. What happened? Does the commander have any clues? Let me ask. The chief is still in the Holy Capital. You also know about this year's funding issue. The chief has argued with the prime ministers countless times. Giottai looked a little helpless. An organization as big as Vulture naturally requires very large funds, and the president is responsible for sorting out these troublesome things. This is really upsetting. What about No2? Garen asked casually. Second sister went to the Red Country for an exchange. As you know, her official identity is the Minister of Education. This visit is an itinerary stipulated by the superiors and cannot be avoided. Giottai became even more helpless. So now you are the sole person in charge of the entire Vulture. Then I'm really honored. Garen was speechless, saying so, but this year it was not the number 1 conference call to issue instructions. He recounted the encounter in detail again, without mentioning the matters within the Soul Seed. He only focused on the overly powerful technology of the White Crab Army. White Crab Army, I have been in contact with this organization before, and it is just a mid-level mercenary. It is indeed suspicious that it has such a powerful technological transformation capability. Giottai frowned. Could it be the force under the Slaughterer? It's possible, but how can the Slayer get such a large amount of funds to supply this legion? Giottai slightly denied. Wait a minute, since Uravar can meet the robots of the White Crab Army for the first time, he can meet them for the second time. The other party is definitely paying attention to him. I even have a feeling that they are even more powerful than us. Pay attention to Uravar as the savior, Giottai frowned. Maybe Garen nodded. Soon the phone rang again on Garen's desk. He looked at the caller ID and saw it was from the nine-tailed fox. After signaling to Jiatai, Jialong waited until he went out before answering the phone. Hello. Garen, do you have any news? Regarding the White Crab Army and Uraja's matter, how do the vultures plan to deal with it? What is the attitude of the Infinite Department? The nine-tailed fox asked questions one after another. Garen now occupies a high position, and Nine-tailed Fox and the others are far inferior to him in terms of strength and intelligence. Neither he nor Nine-tailed Fox and the others expected the speed of change in this situation. I can't answer these questions for the time being, because everything is undecided, but the only thing I can promise you is that I will inform you as soon as there is news, Garen answered calmly. There's something going on over there at Liwa. I need to go to the Black Federation. I might need your help to protect me. The nine-tailed fox squatted down and continued. No problem. I will send someone over and arrange everything. Just ask her to contact Kingfisher directly. I will say hello in advance, Garen agreed. He didn't ask anything. Everyone has their own private matters, so there's no need to get to the bottom of it. This time, we were attacked by the White Crab Army shortly after you left. I was seriously injured and am now recovering, while Liwa and the others are fine, with only minor injuries. How is Ashwi? Rescued. She should be back soon. She doesn't have her mobile phone or anything on her. We can only wait until she comes back. Then you can ask her yourself. The Royal Princess cruise ship came back by boat. It will arrive tomorrow morning. Orchid. I understand. The nine-tailed fox was silent for a moment. Sorry about last time. I was too excited. Fine. After hanging up the phone, Garen fell into thought for a moment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1199. A few days later. Garen washed the sweat off his body. He had just come back from the gym and was covered in stinky sweat. Standing in the bathroom, he recalled the events of the past few days and had a faint doubt in his heart. Yeshui is still under his supervision at the headquarters of the Infinite Department. The Infinite Department is also known as the Swordsmanship Department, and a small number of people in it are his former subordinates from a school department. Although his strength is not outstanding, he still has no problem taking care of Yeshui. That guy's soul power and strength had been temporarily disabled by his shock technique. Come out of the bathroom. He looked through a few extra documents on the table, which recorded what happened in the past few days. Urawa has already gathered with the people sent and headed to the forest capital together, looking for its mother Light Path. At the same time, it was also because he learned that his sister Uraja was also found there. Kongziafi strength 6.2, agility 6.2, constitution 6.1, intelligence 6.5, potential 0%, soul limit 55. Potential, Void Stalker. Soul Ring, Northern Halberdier, Cold Flame, True Water, Evil Art, Blue, Holy Phoenix, Magic Book, Black Gold, Cold Prison, Peacock, Mother Soul Seed, White, Unknown, Transparent. Unnamed Sword Skill, add 1, Unnamed Realm, Effect, all sword skills add 1 speed, strength, precision. Produce unknown changes. The new soul species has basically been integrated into the soul ring, and it has also had an impact on the soul limit, successfully improving the extreme physical fitness by 5 points. No wonder the slaughterer is as physically strong as me. It's probably because the soul limit is so terrifying and the soul power is constantly nourished that he can improve so quickly. So, how many existences like him are there? Are there 4 cornerstones? Can everyone have such strong physical fitness? Garen couldn't tell. He casually looked through the documents on the table. Among them was the interrogation report of Yeshui by the time travelers. It was encrypted and only he could understand it. Picking up this document, it clearly records the relatively detailed upper-level situation of this world. The king of divine pattern slayer, Poseidon, sword master. These three are among the top three on the document. Among the four cornerstones, only the slayer ranks among the top three in combat power in the world. The document states that based on data calculations, in this world, even the four cornerstones must survive long enough to be nourished by soul power before their physical fitness can reach an extremely high level. On average, the physical fitness of a massacrer he should have reached the general level in the Mother River system. He is in the middle of the 5 levels of warrior, team, general, legion, and devil. But considering that it has a soul ring, it has extremely terrifying development potential. The overall rating is S. Because of Poseidon's incomparable strength and body, he practiced Mirage Qigong, and his body hardness and strength reached incredible levels. However, the level of his soul power is not high, one is strong and the other is weak, so he is also rated S level overall. As for the Sword Master, he was a powerful genius who had only risen to power less than a year ago. He followed the Mother River system. His physical fitness was initially estimated to be at the level of a general. In a battle with the Slaughterer, his strength would be even stronger than the opponent's. The overall evaluation is S level. In the document, it is said that these three people are the three strongest individual combatants in the world. They give advice and can choose to escape as soon as possible if encountering them. It belongs to the invincible level. Next are the Black Federation's military flag, battle flag, vultures number 1 and number 2, and others. The overall ranking is a grade. It's interesting, Garen has long been accustomed to being in a high position. No matter which world he has traveled through, he is very familiar with this high position and situation. If we judge based on this data file, the ones who can pose a threat to me should be the Slayer and Poseidon. So is the backstage of the White Crab Army. Poseidon, he touched his chin thoughtfully. Putting down the document, he flipped through another supporting document. This is a detailed investigation of the world's top military forces, including himself. All the skills and sword techniques used are recorded in extremely detailed records, and even some subtle habits that he himself did not notice were all recorded. Is recorded above. There are also Poseidon and Slaughterer, and the stunts they used are all recorded on it. Garen flipped through it with gusto. Poseidon didn't look at it for now, mainly the Slaughterer. There was actually a record of one person defeating a 3,000-man mechanical army, which was very ferocious. 3,000 people. Even if they stand side by side and don't resist and are killed, they will be killed until their arms become weak. But the massacre actually did it, and for this reason he was named the Massacre by various governments and became a wanted criminal against humanity. Displayed on the information. The Slaughterer has been injured and disappeared since he was encircled and suppressed by the Three Kingdoms last time, and there is no news yet. Garen's mood after resting for so long has revived with the discovery of soul power and soul seeds. Since he has absorbed soul seeds, it means that even in this low-level world of martial arts, he has the possibility of progress, so he cannot neglect it. Clean up your mood. He opened the drawer, and there was a white panel inside. There were 100 names densely arranged on the panel. Some names had white lights on, while others were off. But most of them are lit, with small numerical rankings on the front. Garen's eyes went directly to the top 30 rankings. A name quickly landed on it. He reached out and pressed the name. Two-tailed scorpion reports to you, a woman's voice suddenly came from under the name. With manpower under number 80, you are free to choose 5 people to form a team to investigate the whereabouts of dreamers and mind readers. Remember to be more secretive and try not to be discovered by agents from the other 2 countries. If it is unavoidable, try to delay it as much as possible. Discovered time. Garen instructed. As a top Vulture executive, he has the right to mobilize any Vulture personnel below number 20 at any time. There are certain restrictions for those above number 20, and those below number 10 need to ask the number 1 chief for instructions. But now that number 1 and number 2 are not here, naturally he has full power to make the decision. Understood. What are the execution time and final requirements? The woman said decisively. Within 1 year, it is required to locate at least the approximate area. Of course, you can choose not to accept this task, Garen said in a low voice. There was no reply immediately, but he pondered for a while. Then he spoke again. What's the mission reward? Don't you always want to retire? I will ask number 1 for instructions and give you approval as much as possible. Of course, it depends on your performance on this mission. Another 10 million working capital will be used as a mission reward. Is it enough? That's enough. I'll take over the mission, the two-tailed scorpion said decisively. In fact, her external identity is just a housewife, but in fact she is a beautiful spy with excellent concealment and disguise skills. She has caused many major incidents in the world, but in the end she was not found to be responsible. He is also very powerful in terms of force. He has mechanized his right arm and has the title of Kylan Arm. In addition, he habitually smears his own secret poison on his right arm, so he is recognized as a two-tailed scorpion terror killer. In terms of camouflage and assassination abilities, Garen's flattery cannot compare to her. No matter how strong his frontal strength is, after all, he has specialization in the art. Then I'll leave everything to you, Garen said formally. His voice was low and full of purpose. Suddenly, the two-tailed scorpion's heart felt warm, and he felt moved to serve the country without giving up. I'll try. Communication is disconnected. Garen closed the drawer quietly. The savior Yureva is the key to the plot and cannot be moved. The Slayer is extremely powerful. Even if he went into battle in person, it would only be 50%. Moreover, the Slayer obviously had not used all his strength that day, and the outcome was unknown. But the other two cornerstones who have always been low-key and mysterious should also have soul rings, so I can't blame myself. Garen has basically judged that since the Slaughterer can split the soul crystal and soul seed so freely, it is obvious that his own soul power far exceeds the soul crystal. Even if he does not get the soul ring, he can at least make his soul power more powerful. With great supplementation, you might be able to enter a higher level soul seed stage. It's time to calm down. I've been playing for so long. The relaxation on Garen's face gradually disappeared, replaced by a touch of calmness and depression. He thought for a while and directly passed a rough geographical range to the two-tailed scorpion. That was the only place mentioned in the original plot where mind readers lived. There are also some information about the mind reader's name, appearance, and other things that are passed to the two-tailed scorpion one by one. Amidst the rushing sound of the stream, the Black River slowly flows towards the dense forest in the distance along the river surrounded by trees. The river water is not black, but the silt at the bottom of the river makes the river water appear black when viewed from above. The black surface reflects the surrounding trees. There are several big trees and even tree roots that go directly into the river, surrounded by some swaying water plants. The sunset rays cast down and fall on the gray-yellow soil by the river. Crack! A small tuft of green grass by the river was severely stepped on by black leather boots. Yureva squatted down and took a sip of river water with both hands. Great, he shouted. Two more people came over from behind. They were both wearing tight-fitting white leather jackets and were extremely conspicuous in the woods. Moreover, it is a combination of a man and a woman, only 30 years old. The water here is not polluted. It is absolutely pure mountain spring water. But drink less to avoid abdominal pain. The man wore a white metal sleeve on one ear and covered one eye with a black goggle. He was a one-eyed dragon. I was originally supposed to go to Pojuelo Island for vacation. If the emergency mobilization order hadn't been issued, I wouldn't have been willing to come over and take care of a rookie like you. The woman also squatted down and washed her hands with water. Thank you very much, Yureva said with a smile, without anger. Now he is no longer the young boy he was before. His rich experience allows him to understand when and what kind of attitude is needed for whom. Among the men and women in white, the man is an egret, while the woman is a bat. The common feature that both of them have strengthened is the eyes, but they have different divisions of labor. After a day's journey, how far is it before we reach our destination, the forest city? The egret asked in a low voice. Bat glanced at his watch. It's about 6,400 kilometers. Even if we reach the speed limit, it will take at least 3 days to get there. Why don't we take a plane there? Urawa asked. It's useless. The plane's route is too easy to find and your whereabouts will be easily exposed. Protecting your safety is the first priority now. This is the mission we have received. The second is to find Yuriji. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1200. Zyuja Urawa's expression dropped, but strangely he didn't look worried, but had a strange look on his face. After having an inexplicable relationship with that girl, she disappeared the next day. No clues were left, name, identity, background, address, nothing. But Urawa always had an inexplicable feeling of familiarity, which made him feel indescribable. What's wrong with you? The bat's voice interrupted his thoughts. Nothing. Urawa came back to his senses. Recalling the madness that night, he still felt slightly intoxicated. The three of them continued on their way. Riding their respective heavy motorcycles, several days passed quickly as they stopped and stopped. The forest city finally gradually appeared in front of them. There are more and more vehicles on the roadside. Those who pass by each other and those who are overtaken by them become more and more dense. The roads become wider and wider. The trees on both sides become taller and straighter. They have changed from the original winding and medium dwarf trees to uncles who are getting taller and taller. Standing in the woods, all you can see at a glance are tall trees as straight as bamboo stuck in the ground. Forest City has a nice name, but it's actually just an ordinary town built in a sea of trees. But it is a famous tourist attraction in Sri Lanka. So there are many tourists. The three of them left their motorcycles in a car dealership, paid some money, and started walking around the streets of Forest City. The street is spacious and bright, paved with white slates, and is flanked on both sides by small old black houses, which are open shops. There are rows of simple stalls outside the steps of the shops, selling all kinds of specialties. Bat took the lead and walked directly towards the Vulture intelligence contact point here, followed by Egret. The core of his mission was to protect Urawa. Urawa looked around in a daze, not knowing what he was looking for. Boom! Suddenly, a man in black clothes bumped into his shoulder. I'm sorry. Urawa quickly came to his senses and looked at the other person covering his shoulders and frowning. You don't have eyes when you walk, the man cursed in a low voice, but when he saw the egret approaching from the side, his expression suddenly changed slightly and he quickly left. Urawa still wanted to apologize, but when he found that the other party had already walked away and disappeared into the crowd after a few moments, he smiled bitterly and shook his head. He put his hand into his belt, and suddenly his expression changed slightly. He looked down and then his expression returned to normal. Just as the egret turned its head to stare at the man in black, he didn't notice anything strange about him. What's wrong? I'm distracted on the street. It's okay. Urawa smiled and shook his head. That's good. The egret turned around and walked in front of him to clear the way. The crowd was getting thicker and tighter. When the egret wasn't paying attention, its back was turned to him. Urawa lowered his head and took out a small piece of paper from his trouser pocket, unfolded it and saw a line of small words written on it. Be careful of those around you. He quickly put the note into his trouser pocket and looked around, but found no whereabouts of the man just now. The matter came to an end, but it gave Yureva an extra thought. After the Vulture people arranged accommodation at night, the three of them went to sleep separately, waiting for the intelligence personnel here to send back news about Yurigi and her mother's light path. The intelligence personnel here also deliver messages to the Equinox at fixed times. Soon, intelligence personnel had specific information. Someone found a clue near the forest city. The three of them rushed over. In the dense forest, the gray-black ground was covered with a layer of white cloth, and there seemed to be a human body lying underneath. There was a stench all around, and it was unknown how long the body had been dead. The fresh morning air was completely polluted by the stench of corpses. Uriwa, Bat, and Egret squatted down next to the corpse, untied the white cloth, and carefully inspected the condition of the corpse. There was a police cordon surrounding the area, and more than a dozen police officers were waiting for the results. He is a male, between 30 and 45 years old, bald, wearing black clothes, without any identification on his body. The muscle fiber tissue shows that he exercised in a glasses factory, and it is not a simple strength training exercise, more like it's mixed martial arts in nature, Bat explained in a low voice. She is an expert in this field. Egret listened carefully, but Uriwa's pupils shrank slightly the first time he saw the corpse's face. The corpse was clearly that of the man in black who had stuffed the note to him when he first came here that day. He recalled that the scene had happened before, and someone had also given him a note, telling him not to waste his efforts and to go back to gather quickly. Go back to gather? What collection? Why do you say don't waste your efforts? And now this person tells himself that someone around him has a problem. Be careful about the people around you. This sentence can have two meanings. One refers to the people around you, and the other refers to the people close to you. I don't know what the other person wants to say. Thinking of this, he involuntarily clenched the knife in his hand. And now the other party is dead like this. Uriwa remembered clearly that this person was definitely the man in black who stuffed the note to him. I've found something. Suddenly the bat next to him let out a soft cry. He used tweezers to take out a small electronic chip from under the skin of the man in black's arm. It was black and seemed to be made of some kind of alloy. Check it and analyze the structure. This standard chip belongs to one of the universal formats. Bat handed it to Egret, who was an expert in this area. Bela quickly took out a special watch-like instrument, wiped the chip clean and inserted it into it, and soon the information was available. This is a positioning tracking chip, he was suddenly surprised. What position? Boom. Suddenly, the nearby police officers were swallowed up by the violent explosion flames, and small missiles flew from a distance, directly blowing up the police car that was caught off guard. The reddish-golden fire ignited the nearby grass and trees, and the fire spread immediately, sending out billowing white smoke. The three Urivas were severely shaken by the explosion, and they all lay down on the ground to avoid the shock wave. Some slower-moving police officers were directly blown away by the shock wave, and were thrown far away without knowing whether they were alive or dead. Boom boom boom. In the continuous explosions, none of the missiles hit the location where the three of them were, and all the surrounding locations were hit. Apparently the attacker did it deliberately. The police officers were so stunned that the whole venue was completely cleared. In the fire, a 3-meter-tall figure walked towards the three of them step by step, not afraid of the surrounding flames. It's you again. The moment Uriwa saw the figure clearly, he couldn't help but look ferocious. Where's Zyajah? What did you do to Zyajah? He roared violently. The figure stepped out of the firelight and gradually became clearer. It was a 3-meter-tall black robot with a triangular head and a strange pattern of a white crab engraved on its chest. The entire body was as thick and powerful as the stone pillars supporting the house. There are some dark lines on the skin all over the body, and you can tell at a glance that it is extremely heavy and hard. There is a round launch port on each of its arms. White smoke is still slowly emitting at this moment, the edges are slightly red, and the temperature is terrifyingly high. It is obvious that he fired the missile burst just now. If you want to see your sister, then come with me. Savior, the robot made a low and rich voice. Don't listen to him, the egret shouted. One hand suddenly unfolded and turned into an extremely sharp double-edged triangular knife, glowing with a bright red fire. This guy is from the White Crab Army. They just attacked your friend Kuabai and the others. Hey, the robot's movements became faster in an instant. It aimed its arms downwards, fired, and fired missiles. He didn't react in a hurry until it was almost in front of the egret. Boom! The egret rolled awkwardly to another place, barely avoiding the attack just now. With a sharp kick of his legs, he ejected with a bang and rushed straight towards the robot from another angle. The bat rolled to the side and opened its mouth to roar silently at the robot. Waves of invisible sound wave interference suddenly caused the robot's body to sway slightly. Both of them are top-ranked experts among the vultures, so naturally they will not be defeated so easily. Yureva quickly separated from the two of them, avoided the flames, drew out his long knife, and went around the robot's back. Regardless of whether what the robot says is true or false, defeat the opponent first. The robot sneered. Even if the strongest of your vultures, the sword master, comes in person, I won't take it seriously, let alone you trash who are not even ranked in the top 10. Boom! A clear shock wave erupted from his body out of thin air, spreading out fiercely to the surroundings, immediately knocking over the bat sound wave and the egret's sprint, while Yureva was slightly stronger, full of the special ability of a savior. When activated, the person's skin turns red, and his speed and explosive power are even higher. The wind ahead. Aha! Silver light shone, and the distance between the robot and Yureva shortened instantly. Red country. On a rural street in the suburbs of Aix, the headquarters of the Protestant church. Black cars drove slowly into this remote village. These black cars slowly stopped in front of a small brown-red wooden house. A white street lamp stood in front of the wooden house, glowing with a faint white light in the night. Together with the white floor lamps embedded between the stone slabs on the ground nearby, it constitutes the only light source nearby. A woman got out of the black car at the front. This is it. She wore a high ponytail, and her silver hair was blowing slightly to the left in the wind. She was tall and had wheat-colored skin. She was wearing a green tube top and denim shorts, giving people a toned and explosive look. As one of the four cornerstones, you actually try to live an ordinary life. How stupid! Another man, who was neither male nor female, wore heavy makeup and walked out of the car. He looked at Lan Huaji and stared at the wooden house in front of him with disdain. Everyone else, get out of the car, the woman whispered. Immediately, all the cars opened their doors, and waves of well-trained personnel in black uniforms began to clear the onlookers near the venue. The security department's cordon was quickly put up, and the area of several hundred meters nearby was completely enclosed into a restricted area. This is the Red Country. It will be solved in 10 minutes. The woman strode towards the wooden house and kicked open the fence outside the wooden house. If the information is correct, the mind reader at this moment should not be fully awakened yet. It's absolutely easy to catch someone. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1201. Bang, the door was kicked open violently. Inside, a sleepy-eyed man in pajamas was holding a hammer and doing something unknown. Behind him was a 7 or 8-year-old boy hiding. Who are you? Seeing uniformed officers in black uniforms rushing in, the man suddenly looked panicked. Take them away, the woman waved her hand, and several big men like wolves and tigers rushed out from behind and grabbed the men and boys. Bang! Suddenly there was a gunshot, and the two people who rushed towards him fell to the ground, knocking the man slightly, and a bright spot of blood splattered on his head. There is a sniper. Hidden, the woman was suddenly startled. She yelled and pulled out her gun and rolled over. 2 bullet holes appeared at the same place where she was originally standing. It penetrated deeply into the wooden planks of the ground. Bang bang bang. A burst of rapid gunshots was heard outside, and Vulture's men in black quickly counterattacked. Sure enough, I was expected by the adults. The two-tailed scorpion shot the mind reader's right leg with a cold expression and scoffed. There was a flash of blood. "Stop now. Otherwise I will kill him," the two-tailed scorpion yelled decisively. Suddenly, the gunshots outside and the screams of the men in black stopped quickly. Obviously the other party is also very nervous, fearing that she will defeat the enemy and directly kill the mind reader. Even if one of the 4 cornerstones dies, he can be resurrected within a year, but it would be very troublesome to know his whereabouts so easily. The two-tailed scorpion slowly straightened up and looked at the trembling man and boy. His face was cold and he moved slowly against the wall. At the same time, he walked to the door and glanced outside. There were more than 10 people brought this time in the open space outside. Damn it! She couldn't help but curse. This time they brought a total of more than 20 people, and most of them were killed in one go. "Follow me," she quickly walked to the mind reader, stretched out her hand and grabbed the mind reader's neck. Laugh. Suddenly, a chill came from his vest. The two-tailed scorpion didn't have time to think too much. He squatted down hard, gave up on blocking the mind reader, and fired a shot with his backhand. Boom. A woman's muffled groan sounded from behind her at the same time. The two-tailed scorpion rolled over to escape the cold air. Looking back, she saw a dazzling silver dagger precisely piercing the spot where she had just stood. "Let's go," the woman's cold voice sounded, and the mind reader picked up his son. His speed increased sharply, and he rushed out of the door. Bang! The sniper rifle sounded again. The two-tailed scorpion was just about to stand up and catch up when it suddenly turned sideways and its arm hurt. Almost got hit. A large piece of flesh was directly wiped off the right arm. Shit. If the elites hadn't been scattered and searching everywhere, her main elite force, the top experts, were scattered throughout the suburbs to search. If the manpower was concentrated, there would be no chance for the snipers to be so rampant. Watching the mind reader escape, the two-tailed scorpion paused slightly with his right leg and stepped lightly on the ground. Bang bang bang. She fired 3 shots in succession towards her right side in an instant, and all 3 shots hit the same hole. The bullet flew upward diagonally. Suddenly the sniper rifle went silent. The feeling over the years told the two-tailed scorpion that the other party had been shot. At this time, the mind reader had already run a long way away, turned a corner and disappeared around the corner. Before the subordinates who were hiding could react, they saw the two-tailed scorpion rushing out of the house. Chase. "We can't let them run away," the two-tailed scorpion looked ferocious. This was the key to whether she could successfully retire. There is absolutely no room for error. In the moment of fighting just now, he could feel that if she knew in advance that there was a sniper, even if the opponent was hiding and she was hiding, she could easily locate and kill the opponent with her modified sensing ability. What a pity it was too sudden. A group of men in black immediately separated into several people to pursue the mind reader, leaving 2 people to deal with the body. Being rescued. Garen frowned and stood on the roof of the tall building. The cold night wind blew his hair slightly, giving him a relaxed temperament, but at this moment, his mood was far from as relaxed and happy as he appeared. Someone is capable of taking someone away from you. Do you know who he is? He grabbed the fence with his back to the roof of the building and leaned directly on it. The two-tailed scorpion gritted his teeth over there. "Don't worry, I've asked my brothers to hang them up, and I won't let any of them go. Bai Quan also came out with me this time. I'm assured of his tracking ability, but what's the opponent's strength?" Garen asked in a low voice. "Except for the sniper who is more experienced, the other woman has average skills. As long as she finds an opportunity to intercept them, the sniper will not have any chance to escape. The two-tailed scorpion felt that this was the first time in history that it was an absolute shame. With all due respect, sir, there must be some insiders in the team, otherwise I would be able to be located and ambushed in advance if I dispersed the team and searched everywhere. This is unrealistic, the two-tailed scorpion said coldly. I apply for support from psychiatrist Lan Hai. Lan Hai, Jia Long frowned slightly. Lan Hai ranks 26th among the vultures. He has almost no strong melee and long-range combat abilities, but his greatest weapon is not combat, but his mind and strategy. Calculate your enemies while strengthening your own side. Are you sure you don't need additional support? He repeated. No need. As long as Lan Hai comes, there will be no problem. I was caught off guard this time, and the elite are not around, otherwise there would be no accident, the two-tailed scorpion said fiercely. Her mission evaluation is related to whether she can retire this time. According to regulations, once she applies for the support of more than 2 ranking masters, the mission will no longer be an independent mission. Even if it is completed, the mission reward will be reduced by 80%. I'll give you 5 days, Garen said calmly. 5 days. Understood. The mission must be completed, the two-tailed scorpion agreed fiercely. Garen disconnected the phone and looked at the night view of Suzuran City in the distance, feeling a little complicated. Inside. Haha. It seems that even the lighthouse of the Time Traveler organization has its own selfish motives. The person who can find a mind reader who has not revealed his previous identity is almost unlikely to be anyone other than the Time Traveler. They laid an ambush on the edge beforehand, probably waiting for the best opportunity. Once the mind reader awakens his ability, he will decisively copy the divine pattern. But he didn't expect Garen to directly send people to rob him openly. If there is another time traveler with the strength of the nine-tailed fox, it will indeed be more troublesome. Garen thought for a moment. He quickly went downstairs, returned to his office, opened the drawer, and looked at the rows of names with the white lights still on. Among them, 15 of the top 20 people have white lights on, which shows that they are all free. Garen scanned a circle of names and quickly settled on one person's name. Angelou the Butcher. Ranked 11. Those who rank in the top 10 have absolute combat power that can guard a large province. They are very fierce. Galen estimates that even according to the danger rating standards given by Yeshui, those in the top 10 can all reach the A-level level. The difference lies in the difference between high and low in a level. Such masters can have large or small tyrannical elite organizations under their command. There is also an unfilial influence throughout Sri Lanka. But Butcher is an exception. He is the only master whose own strength reaches the top 10, but because he does not have enough power, he does not enter the top 10. 80% of his body has been transformed into mechanical devices, comparable to the Terminator in Earth movies. His character is bloodthirsty and violent, and he likes the most powerful defenses and armors. Even among the top 10 in terms of defensive ability, only 2 people can compare with it. Press the name lightly. Garen calmed down his mood. Angelou. Is there a mission you can take on? Is it number 3? A rough man's voice came from the other party. If you have anything to say, tell me quickly. I'm going to go fishing soon. The fishing he was talking about was not really fishing, but an underground death-fighting arena. The butcher didn't have much respect for Garen. In his opinion, it was the greatest insult to him to have a mere brat under 20 climb on his head. But after challenging Garen many times and being easily defeated, although he was still unconvinced, he could at least maintain his respect for Garen on the surface. After all, a leg was chopped off alive and had to be replaced with a prosthetic limb. Such a tragic failure would definitely make him unforgettable for the rest of his life. The two-tailed scorpion was blocked by someone when it captured an important person. The other party was very troublesome. They may be familiar with your abilities and the two-tailed scorpion's abilities. They even know us vultures very well. So this time want to invite you. Stop talking nonsense, what's the reward? The butcher said impatiently. Garin smiled slightly. The reward will definitely satisfy you. He paused deliberately. Don't you want to acquire a hydropower station in Kesla? I can help you. The butcher didn't speak immediately, but his breathing was obviously much heavier. Are you serious? His voice suddenly dropped. The price of that hydropower station is second, mainly because the relationship behind it is complicated. It's related to the butcher's former big enemy, and it's also related to the butcher's revenge plan. So he couldn't help but not be tempted. Because once Garin takes action, it means that as number 3, he may help the butcher deal with that enemy. Such potential impact is not ordinary. Seriously, Garin said calmly, although doing so would cause him to suffer some loss of connections. But it doesn't matter, the enhancement of the soul ring is the core, everything else can be put aside. If he hadn't been in control of the overall situation and couldn't be separated for the time being, he would have even planned to take action personally. Okay. I'll take over this task, the butcher said decisively. Immediately start asking for specific goals, relevant information, and other information. Even though he was a lone ranger, he still had his own network of contacts. Everything was quickly arranged, and Garin turned off the communication. The only thing to do now is to wait. He sat on the chair and curled the corners of his mouth slightly. With the butcher out and the two-tailed scorpion in tow, unless it was a master of the nine-tailed fox level, it was unlikely that anyone would be able to withstand it. And the current whereabouts of the nine-tailed fox is under his control, and it is absolutely impossible to rush away. The only thing I worry about is other time travelers. But how many other masters are there at the level of nine-tailed fox? Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1202. When Yureva held a long knife and slashed at the robot's arm. The two of them, one big and one small, squeezed and collided violently. Yureva was only slightly inferior. After being ejected, he jumped several meters and landed lightly on the ground. In the woods, the two resumed their confrontation, and sweat continued to flow from Yurewa's temples. His current strength is comparable to Galleon's in normal state, but the guy in front of him really makes him a little helpless. For defense, the knife cannot cut or stab at all. To attack, the robot waved his hand casually, and the explosive force required him to resist it with all his strength. If he wasn't careful, he might be directly hit and fractured. Just like the two people lying next to them. The bat and the egret were sitting next to each other at the foot of a tree. Each of their hands and feet was broken and they could hardly move. I could only watch helplessly as Yureva and the robot fought head-on. It has been 3 days since they met the robot. During these 3 days, the other party has been chasing and killing them almost non-stop without any intention of holding back. They don't even care about the safety and life and death of ordinary people, and they are unscrupulous. We have already applied for support. Hold on, Egret gritted his teeth. His hands were skillfully assembling a thin skateboard-like thing. It seems to be some kind of transportation tool. These days, they rely on this thing to quickly escape from the pursuit of robots. Yureva did not reply, but once again rushed forward to fight with the robot. The blade of the knife kept slashing everywhere on the robot's body, even in some body gaps, but it had no effect. Even the connecting parts in the gaps are extremely hard and have an inner protective shell. Hydra. Suddenly, he activated his ability silently, and the robot's speed dropped instantly, while his speed increased sharply. Dang dang dang. 4 times in a row, the blade struck the same spot on the robot's neck. Tisk. A small crack appeared on the robot's neck. The huge impact made him involuntarily push his body back and take 2 steps back. Okay, he actually didn't care about his injuries. He folded his arms in the middle. While Yureva was slashing quickly, he hugged Yuriva's waist fiercely, just like a man hugging a woman's waist. Hug. But Hydra's ability absorbed his speed enhancement Yuriva. Yuriva's speed at this moment was far beyond his imagination. He shrunk his body, immediately finished the slashing and dodged the attack, and stabbed the robot's abdomen with the blade again. He used all his strength to stab him, his skin turned red, and he even used the special power of the Savior to borrow the power of others. The power of one person. Yuriva turned around and spun quickly, and the blade quickly turned and strangled like a tornado. Tisk tisk tisk. Continuous cutting sounds continued to sound from the robot. Dragon spine bomb. The robot's right arm pressed down hard, and a ball of steam propulsion exploded from the right shoulder area. It violently accelerated the right arm downwards, and the speed of the entire robot arm increased several times in an instant. Lowering his head towards Yuriwa. Top pick. Yuriva's spinning knife style suddenly condensed into a ball and pushed upwards. Zheng. The blade and the robot arm collided fiercely. With a crash, the blade broke directly and flew out. Yuriva's expression changed and he quickly retreated, but it was too late at this moment. The robot arm, accelerated by the steam explosion, slammed forward. Bang! His whole body was hit directly in the chest, and with the sound of bone cracking, Yuriva flew far away. Let's go, the egret made the skateboard at some point. He caught Yuriwa from a distance with the bat, and quickly ran away into the distance without looking back. Along the way, you can faintly see faint traces of blood left on the grass. Bat looked at the robot, quickly catching up behind him. Its long-range attack methods have been exhausted. As long as he doesn't close the distance, it should be fine. Are you okay, Yuriva? It's okay, Yuriwa replied with a pale face. As soon as he finished speaking, he spit out a mouthful of blood. This guy is at least one of the top 10 in strength. Although my injury is completely healed, the power of the Savior cannot be fully exerted to its maximum. I can only borrow the power of one person. It is too strong and my body cannot bear it. Don't worry, I have already applied for support. The experts will arrive soon, as long as we can delay for a while, Belu said urgently. Here. Here. Suddenly, there were bursts of hurried shouts from the front. The egret and the bat suddenly beamed with joy. Here we come. The three of them rode their skateboards forward quickly, walking through the woods. Soon they saw a group of men in black getting off black motorcycles in front of them. One of the leaders was wearing half a golden mask, covering the left side of his face. This person was clearly a woman. Behind her, several people were quickly assembling some kind of weapon for her. The weapon looked very much like a longer and thicker version of a super sniper rifle. The entire gunshot was silvery white, almost like an ordinary small cannon. Lower your head. The woman picked up the weapon, put it on her shoulder and pointed it at Yuriwa and the other three. The three of them lowered their heads suddenly. Boom! There was a loud thunder-like sound above their heads, and the three of them were completely deafened for a moment. They could not hear anything. They only felt numb all over their bodies and a chaotic buzzing in their ears. Boom! Huge light and heat instantly came from behind, as well as a violent shock wave, which caused the three of them to fall off the skateboard. They were accurately caught by the man in black, who had prepared in advance with a soft mesh bag. The woman in black put down her giant gun and looked far into the depths of the forest where the flames were soaring into the sky. Indiscriminate bombing. Send out the falcons. Clear. Apply for falcon bombing. The people behind him quickly gave orders. Immediately, the screams of bombers quickly came from above everyone's heads, and several white-threaded bombs were fired in the middle of the burning fire. The violent explosions were superimposed on each other, and the flames and smoke spread, almost covering the surrounding woods. Completely shrouded in firelight, nothing could be seen clearly. Is he dead? The woman asked in a low voice. The target's energy radiation has dropped by more than 40%. It is retreating now. It should be that it has escaped temporarily. A subordinate behind him replied in a low voice, looking at a scanning instrument in his hand. Indiscriminate bombing and pursuit. Kill him. The woman held a cigarette lightly, lit it and took a puff, then took it out with her fingers, and then turned her attention to the three of us. Egret, I haven't seen you for a long time, but you're still so embarrassed. The woman's smiling voice came from under the mask. Sister, Belu was helped to stand up. One leg was broken and he couldn't use it. He could only rely on the other leg to support himself. Fortunately, you are here this time, otherwise we would be in real trouble if it were any later. The other party is from the White Whale. The superiors asked me to wait for you near here in advance. I didn't expect it to come in handy. The masked woman ranked 8th among the vultures. She was good at long distance and indiscriminate fire control. Don't look at it just for ordinary people. Ordinary simple serial bombing, but in fact all aiming is controlled by the masked woman. She can even ensure that all bombing points can be hit continuously on the same point while the opponent rolls and is blown away. And that the dot is the crack in Yureva's neck that was cut with a knife just now. We have initially determined who our opponent is, the woman said calmly. The Merchant Alliance has officially issued an order to encircle and suppress the White Crab Army. White Crab Army, Yurewa stood up, feeling sore all over. He was hit hard just now, his internal organs were shocked, and he would not be able to recover for a while. Why, have you heard of it? The woman looked at him and asked. Be careful, Yureva suddenly jumped forward and knocked down the masked woman. At the same time, a bit of silver light passed through the masked woman's original head position, emitting a harsh scream. The silver light directly hit the head of a person behind the woman. With a pop, the person's head exploded, and red and white splattered all around. Without any shouts or orders, everyone was absolutely elite and immediately fired back. More than a dozen grenades flew out and landed in the direction of the silver light. Bang 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 bang. Explosions continued one after another, and the bullets jingled against the metal surface, as if they were blocked by something. Yureva slowly helped the woman get up. Thank you, the woman looked serious, I owe you my life. No. You are here to support us too. Yureva turned back and looked in the direction of the silver light. Amid the fire and smoke, a huge body 3 meters high slowly emerged from the high-temperature flames. It was the robot just now. At this time, his body became larger and heavier, almost twice as wide as before. There was an eye-like opening in the center of the entire machine body, and inside were densely packed small eyes with green halos. There was a big gash where he was injured before, but it was healing quickly, and soon there was only a tiny white mark left. It's useless. Unless they are among your top 5 masters, the rest of them are not even qualified to stand in front of me. The robot's deep voice echoed in the woods, mixed with the violent noise of everyone burning. 3 times super electromagnetic force. The masked woman shouldered the gun with a cold face. Bang! A white beam of light suddenly lit up, hitting the robot in the middle of the chest faster than lightning. But unexpectedly, the robot grasped the white light with one hand and blocked it in the palm of its hand. The beam and the palm lasted for several seconds before dissipating. White smoke also emitted from the robot's palm, some turned red, and showed a very high heat temperature. And the robot laughed ferociously, and its tall and heavy body suddenly exploded behind it, turning into a huge driving force and rushing towards the seriously injured Yureva and the other 3. Aha! Silver light shone, and in an instant, a slender silver blade was drawn behind Yureva. It was just an ordinary knife, slashed on the robot's body. Boom! Like muffled thunder, the blade and the metal shell of the robot body exploded with huge metal sparks. His whole body felt like it was struck by lightning and flew backwards like a cannonball. The inside of his body was buzzing, like a bell being struck, and sound waves were constantly vibrating and surging in his body. Ah! The robot screamed, and while it was still in the air, it quickly turned around, sprayed out flame boosters from behind, and fled far away. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1203. With a snap, a figure passed by the ears of the Uravas and the three of them. It was faster than a supersonic fighter jet. In the blink of an eye, it caught up with the robot and struck with another ordinary slash. Boom! The robot went straight down and was smashed into the ground, shaking the surrounding flames and smoke directly to create a big hole. For a moment, the fire was extinguished by the huge shock, and countless smoke exploded in the surroundings, as if there was a new one. The bomb exploded. A black figure stood on the edge of the pit where the robot was, holding a 2-meter-long knife and looking quietly at the bottom of the pit. Laugh. The robot from the bottom of the pit rushed out with a bang, weighing over 1,000 kilograms and rushing towards the figure with huge impact. Dang! The figure casually slashed with a knife. With a roar, the knife no longer looked like a knife. It was simply a super hammer. It hit the robot hard, sending it flying. It smashed more than a dozen big trees all the way to the side, and then barely managed to knock it over. In front of a tree trunk, he knelt down. Ah! The robot screamed angrily. Suddenly it found that there was another figure in front of it. You, he raised his head and wanted to speak. Bang! The long knife whipped him away like a whip. After rolling more than 10 meters away, the robot's entire body appeared to be in tatters. There were huge wounds everywhere with silver liquid flowing out. More than 80% of the body shell was covered with various scars. Gogolin, the robot was weak, its throat seemed to have been damaged, and it made a weird overlapping sound. Aren't you supposed to be in the Red Country? How is that possible? The figure appeared in front of the robot again, and this time it didn't fly away again. Red Country? It seems that someone has tipped you off. Garen looked calm. The robot in front of it also revealed a trace of soul power, and it obviously also had the imitation divine mark of the Slayer. Snapped. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the robot's neck directly. Lift it straight up and hold it in the air. Now that he has absorbed the soul power of the soul seed, his average quality has just exceeded 6 points and reached the average level of 7 points, which has been raised to a terrifying level. Even if the robot weighs thousands of kilograms, it has no effect on him. Who is the master behind the White Crab Army? Tell me. Garen hung the long knife straight in front of the robot's chest, with the tip of the knife facing the robot's chest. If he wanted to, he could turn the robot into a skewer in an instant. Ha ha ha, the robot sneered. You won't know. You'll never know. Ugh. The knife stabbed straight into the robot's chest. The robot's body quickly lit up red and was about to explode at any time, but was immediately extinguished by a strange shock. It was like cold water poured on red carbon, and the entire machine body cooled down rapidly. The robot's eyes quickly dimmed. Not far away, Urava stared at Garen with wide eyes. This was his first time and the first time he really saw Garen taking action with all his strength. I originally expected that I was not far away from him, but now it seems that that guy is a terrifying existence that can tear apart a giant dragon with his bare hands. Without using any moves, as long as he slashes with his sword, his strength alone can crush people to death. Isn't that how this robot dies? It's so perverted. Urava couldn't help but feel excited and whispered. Egret and Bat were sweating wildly beside them, nodding their heads in agreement. They themselves couldn't tell whether the cold sweat was caused by the pain of the injury or by Galleon's fright. On the other hand, the woman in the silver mask was much calmer. Stride over. Minister. Fortunately, you arrived in time. The strength of this robot is equivalent to the top 5 levels. If you hadn't arrived in time, we might have had to retreat early. Garen sheathed his sword and nodded in response. The technology of the White Crab Army exceeds expectations. You have to be careful, Yurova. I caught them off guard this time. Such robots are definitely very costly, and losing one is definitely a big deal for them. So in the future you'll be relatively safe. Yurova let out a hard breath. Could it be that they have more than one pervert like this? When he thought about the perverted state of the robot just now, his heart trembled slightly. No matter how hard he hit or chopped, the knife broke and it was still useless. Of course, Garen affirmed, I have other important matters and I can't be with you at all times, so you can only rely on yourself. Judging from the other party's intentions, your sister should be considered safe. They don't seem to have killed you. Yes, you can rest assured on this. Really, Yurova recalled the previous scenes. Indeed, even if he was seriously injured and fell into coma, the robot did not take the opportunity to kill him. Garen looked at the main character in the plot, and began to rummage through the robot again, and took out something from the wound on its chest. It was a crystal clear hexagonal diamond crystal. I got a soul crystal. Garen quickly began to absorb soul power. The soul power of one soul crystal is equivalent to 1/3 of the minimum amount of soul seeds. As long as 3 are absorbed, his average physical quality can be quickly improved. This is the best nutritional ripening food for galleons. And it also has a very good supplementary effect on soul rings. As long as you upgrade to the 5 soul rings, you can enter the next stage and get new soul power increases. At that time, Garen had deduced the specific situation. The soul power should become purer, and his own improvement would speed up. At the same time, the special abilities of the soul seed would gradually begin to be highlighted. 2 months later, the plot got out of hand. After the nine-tailed fox recovered from his injuries, the first thing he said when he came to Garen's office was that he had a very serious problem. What do you mean? Garen was pouring tea for the two of them. Hearing this, his movements could not help but slow down slightly. Isn't Yurova good? It's not him, but the mind reader who was supposed to appear did not appear according to the plot, the nine-tailed fox said seriously. I just received the news. You also sent people to look for mind readers. Right, she put her hands on the table and stared straight at Garen, as if trying to tell whether he would lie. How is that possible? Garen frowned and immediately denied it. Why did I send someone to find him? An unawakened mind reader is of no use to anyone. The nine-tailed fox stared at Garen with sharp eyes and said nothing. Garen also poured the tea, pushed one cup to the other person, and picked up the other cup and drank it slowly. Why are you looking at me like that? I did send people to investigate the mind reader, but I couldn't find his whereabouts, so I had to call it a day and come back, Galen explained. There was something wrong with his eyes when he looked at the nine-tailed fox, and he immediately left. Do you suspect that I'm targeting mind readers? You have this motive, nine-tailed fox said calmly. Yashui revealed that your background is too deep. I originally thought you were an ordinary Mother River System master, but the facts proved me wrong. I'm really just an ordinary Mother River System master? What's wrong? Garen asked doubtfully. Are you really ordinary enough? The nine-tailed fox said with a sarcastic look. In less than 2 years, you have secured the position of the 3rd position of the Vulture, with sophisticated methods, and organized internal personnel to convince everyone. This is also call it ordinary. She sat down gently on the chair. If this is considered ordinary, then us truly ordinary time travelers will have to die. We all just buy a piece of tofu and get killed. You doubt me? Garen shook his head. I have no reason to mess up the plot. Of course, so we are just suspicious, the nine-tailed fox said calmly. The passage to the lighthouse is open, you can go back at any time. I came here mainly to inform you about this. I know, Garen nodded. By the way, let me tell you something. The nine-tailed fox stood up and walked out. The mind reader has awakened. Just like the original plot, he met and became friends with Yurova, but it is different from the original plot. Unfortunately, his ability awakened much stronger than before, causing a major change in the plot. I warn you, don't provoke him again, otherwise even Yurava's relationship will not be able to protect you. Many people have already expressed dissatisfaction with this. Garen did not move in his seat and did not reply. He just watched quietly as the nine-tailed fox opened the door and went out. The two-tailed scorpion walked out of the side door, wearing a tight-fitting black OL skirt with black stockings, looking beautiful and sexy. Her tall silver hair was tied into a bunch behind her back, swaying slightly as she walked. Since her last mission failed, she applied for support from the butcher, but was still escaped by the mind reader. Although the two of them killed a large number of mysterious people who protected the mind reader, they still failed. As punishment for failing the mission, the two-tailed scorpion took the initiative to apply to be Garen's personal secretary. Her originally planned retirement turned out to be nothing, and she completely hated the mind reader and the group of mysterious people who interfered with her mission. He vowed to take revenge. There is something new. Take a look. The two-tailed scorpion placed a document in his hand in front of Garen. Also, has the nine-tailed fox been too aggressive recently? Does it need to be beaten? She asked tentatively. She has divorced her husband because she failed to retire. Being unable to retire means that she has no way to escape from the dark world. It also means that she can no longer continue to live an ordinary life. Just completely break away from normal life and concentrate on solving your opponents. No need. Garen shook his head. Just do your thing. Yes. The nine-tailed fox retreated. She actually didn't know what the nine-tailed fox said, but the other party had come many times, and his actions in private were quite disrespectful to Garen. This made her very unhappy. Butcher, come and see me. It's about the last mission. Garen picked up the phone and said. Is there any news about the mind reader? I'll be right there. The butcher accidentally lost an arm last time. Returned from a near-death encounter. I have been waiting for revenge for a long time. The last operation of the mind reader was because someone blocked it, and Garen himself went to the capital of Uravasan and was unable to provide support. This time, Garen planned to send more manpower. If necessary, he will take action himself. Now, he is getting stronger every moment. His strength, speed, physique, and thinking are becoming more and more terrifying every moment under the nourishment of soul power. Try to see if you can directly seize the divine pattern soul ring. If not, absorb as much soul power as possible, and then go to the lighthouse. Garen has decided not to stay in this world anymore. He will collect enough resources as soon as possible, and then leave. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 1204. It's indeed him. The nine-tailed fox looked at Kong Xingxiu putting down the small instrument in his hand, his expression gloomy. I'm afraid Garen himself didn't expect that. Shui, you have the powerful intelligence ability to monitor the surroundings for thousands of meters at any time. Fortunately, I didn't tell him directly at the beginning, the nine-tailed fox said happily. He should make big moves soon. But as long as it's not aimed at Uravar, there won't be a big problem, Kong Xingxiu said casually. I've never been able to see through Garen. I used to feel that there was a hazy fog about him, but now there's even more of it, Kuabai whispered. Then what are you going to do? Kong Xingxiu looked at her helplessly. I feel like you are worried too much. Everyone has their own plans, even us. Of course I know, but he seems to be acting alone from everyone. He's not very familiar with us, is he? Kong Xingxiu didn't care. I'm afraid that guy's background is terrible. He is obviously also collecting imitation divine patterns. If he continues to get the first move, our chances will be much less. Aren't you worried that you won't get the divine patterns in the end? Nine-tailed fox somewhat angry. What are you worried about? I was rescued by him this time. It's just a favor for him. It's a bit against my will to help you collect information. Kong Xingxiu looked at these things very lightly. You, Kuabai was helpless. Forget it, you don't value me and I can handle it myself. She got up and hurriedly went to contact other people. Kong Xingxiu doesn't have as many thoughts as she does. She just wants to live this life leisurely and doesn't want to ruin her life with things like power. Forest City. Uriwa rode a motorcycle alone, galloping among the vast sea of trees, following a winding path that branched off from time to time, heading towards other places. Because of internal problems, he simply went on the road alone, as long as he could keep in touch with the vulture at all times. Since he was saved by Garen in time last time, he got to know the mind reader again. As one of the second four cornerstones, that mature uncle also brought his own young son with him. He was the first to contact him. The person who contacted him was a mind reader whose ability was to read the surface memories of anyone within 100 meters of him, so he knew very well the information about Uriva as the savior, and even about Uriva's character and past. I also have a certain understanding of the deeds. This time Uriwa headed towards the sea capital, which is also a large port in the country of Sri Lanka. The mind reader told him there that he had information about Urija and Guanglu and could tell him on condition that he protect him once. Uriwa flatly agreed and rode straight to the sea capital. Woo! The thick tires of the motorcycle rolled over the road at high speed, making a harsh and violent sound. The woods on both sides quickly passed behind his head. Uriwa went very smoothly this time, without any ambush or other attacks. He left the forest capital smoothly and gradually entered another province. Suddenly the motorcycle stopped suddenly, Uriwa's body turned and stopped sideways on the road, looking at a small box placed on the ground. Its mother's box. He was a little excited, quickly got out of the car, picked up the box and opened it. The box is made of standard mahogany wood, with a large number of delicate patterns on the surface. With a snap, the box pops open. There was a piece of hard paper lying flat inside, white and rectangular. There is a line of words written on it. Capital of the Sea, Sky Cinema, 1500 hours, speed car. Children, be careful of those around you. It's my mother's word. Uriva felt happy and suppressed the expression on her face. Collect the note. What are you looking at? Suddenly a voice came from behind him. It was a woman's voice. It's you. Uriva turned around suddenly and saw a girl in a white dress standing behind her. It was the nameless girl who saved her before. The memory of that night suddenly flashed back in his mind, and he couldn't help but grab the other person's arm. I won't let you run away this time, he said harshly. Don't believe what's on the note. The girl looked a little haggard, her eyes were swollen with a faint red ring. Why? Uriva was stunned. This is my mother's handwriting, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. Don't believe what's on the note, the girl repeated. Why? Uriva frowned. What's wrong with your eyes? He reached out to touch the girl's eyes. Buzz. Opening his eyes suddenly, Uriwa suddenly realized that he was still riding a motorcycle. I just fell asleep without realizing it. The rapid wind blew in front of me, making my face hurt. The motorcycle drove forward quickly. There was a straight road in front of me, and I fell asleep in such a short time. Uriva slowed down and parked the car slowly on the side of the road. He didn't turn off the engine, but just sat in the car and thought carefully about the dream. Weird. He reached out and touched his pocket, and there was actually a white note inside. His heart moved, so he took it out and looked at it. Sure enough, it had the same handwriting written on it as in the dream. He quickly got out of the car and quickly found the wooden cosmetic box that his mother often used in the trunk of the car. It seems that it was true that I picked up the box, but the part where I saw her was just a dream. Uriva breathed out in a low voice. Don't believe the content of the note. Suddenly a voice sounded in his ear. Uriva felt as if he was hallucinating. He glanced around suddenly and didn't see any girl at all. Really, am I hallucinating? He shook his head, feeling that he might have hallucinated because he had been driving for a long time without rest. He quickly got on the bike, started the motorcycle, and roared into the distance, quickly disappearing at the end of the road. Not long after he left, a girl in a white dress slowly walked out from behind a tree. He stared blankly in the direction Yureva left. "You want to thwart the Lord's plan." A tall robot with a triangular head slowly walked out of the woods opposite, staring at the girl coldly with its green electronic eyes. "I didn't." Boom. Suddenly, the robot suddenly appeared in front of the girl and punched the girl hard in the abdomen, causing her to arch her waist and spit out a mouthful of blood. The girl's hands suddenly disappeared in a chain, and she clicked on the robot's chest more than 10 times like a phantom. Tisk tisk tisk. Amidst the continuous sound like a balloon deflating, a large number of blue arcs appeared all over the robot's body. You can't even resist a sneak attack at this speed. The robot was about to be destroyed, but he didn't care at all and said calmly, "How long can you hold on?" "You don't have to worry about it." The girl tore it apart with both hands. Laugh. The entire robot was torn into 2 halves by her and flew to both sides. He fell heavily into the mud. Vomit. The girl covered her abdomen, uncontrollable blood overflowing from the corners of her mouth. "Special mobile team, you really think highly of me." The girl's eyes turned cold and she looked around. 3 identical triangular-headed robots slowly walked out of the woods. "There is no point in resisting." The 3 robots spoke at the same time, as if they were one person. The sound of helicopter propellers slowly came from the sky, and there was the sound of a large number of people walking nearby. It was obvious that they were surrounded by each other. "Honestly, it's not good to use it as a prop for Mr. Slaughterer to vent his anger. He just wants to betray you," a robot said coldly. "It looks like we have a big harvest." Unexpectedly, Nine-Tailed Fox and Liwa led more than 10 people out of the woods and surrounded the 3 robots from all sides. 1 person per person. "No problem." The Nine-Tailed Fox glanced at the girl. "She has been following Yureva for a long time in order to track down this sudden mysterious girl. Now it seems that if she gets her, she will probably gain a lot of information." The girl nodded. In addition to the more than 10 combat troops, 2 other helicopters slowly appeared overhead, their cannons aimed at the robot. "People from the White Crab Army, I'll give you a chance to leave immediately." The Nine-Tailed Fox sneered and looked at the 3 robots. Thanks to the care of the White Crab Army, she was seriously injured by the perverted robot last time. She won't be so polite this time. As soon as they retreat, she will immediately order to fire and directly take the opportunity to severely damage these 3 robots. This kind of robot with a triangular head is expensive to build, and even the White Crab Army certainly cannot have too many of them. In a small office, Vulture number 1, number 2, Gallon, number 4, and number 5 were all sitting at the conference table, quietly looking at the 3 robots in the side surveillance screen. What happened to Yureva was also monitored by them. "Is this woman a nine-tailed fox?" Vulture number 1 frowned. The tall man in white military uniform frowned slightly, looking at the nine-tailed fox's confident and calm expression. "Yes," Garen replied. "What suggestions does the chief have?" "I can't say it's a suggestion, but it's a bit outrageous to dare to take food from our mouths," Chief number 1 said lightly. "This figure is a key figure. He needs to be in his hands. He may have a great understanding of the White Crab Army," the old woman number 2 said in a low voice. "In view of the White Crab Army's intentions towards the saviors, there are also those who imitate the divine patterns. If they appear, I suggest mobilizing special forces to eliminate the White Crab Army in a targeted manner. You can invite the other 2 countries to have a military exercise together and solve the problem together," man number 4 said lazily. Issuing a wanted order for a terrorist organization, the White Crab Army officially fights against national organizations and can be approved as an anti-humanity organization. Number 5, a newly replaced woman, said in a low voice. "The nine-tailed fox obstructs official business and interferes with government affairs. Why don't we classify them as terrorists and deal with them? Number 4 continued. I don't think it's appropriate, Garen said and glanced at number 4. Although Nine-Tailed Fox is an underground gang leader who cannot be seen on the stage, he plays a good role in the security and stability of our country of Sri Lanka. My suggestion is that you can just give him a warning without going to a lot of trouble. I heard that number 3, you have something to do with the Nine-Tailed Fox, right? Number 4 seemed to be a bit targeted at Garen.